almost missed my cue. I came running, so if I sound a little out of breath, it was because I went from having a lot of time to, oh my God, he's playing my song. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's a cue. Yeah, and you know something for Toronto Queen, I need to lock in on a particular cue for her also because yesterday something like that, Monday something like that almost happened. But the key thing is you're here. I want to say welcome. It's a Friday and it's a happy Friday. You there?
Yes, so we are going to talk today about love and fear.
Yeah.
Our two basic, or should I say base emotions, and what all stems from that. Let me see.
Well, I know you rushed to the phone, but as she gathers her thoughts together here, last week she spoke about ego, and I know there's a continuity that she's prepared all these subjects on. So I don't know if you want to give them just maybe a 40 seconds recap of last week and roll into this week with love and fear and what it entails.
Okay. Last week we spoke on the ego. And basically how if your ego is out of balance, it can cause volatile, hostile behavior. It can cause alienation, or rather not can cause, it does cause alienation, not just from your family and your loved ones, but also from God, from your spirituality. I should be careful with the use of the word God. I know there's probably like 3 people right now that say, who's God, which God? But I mean an alienation from the spiritual essence, from the understanding that we are not here alone, that we are part of something higher that is not just our physical body. So we touched on that with the ego so that people understand that when you speak from the heart, which is a place of love, your ego is more inclined to be in check so that you're not being hostile, you're not being argumentative, you're not being judgmental, you're not being all those things that arise from fear. And a negative ego or an out of balance ego is basically an emotion of fear. And so today I wanted to talk about that, love and fear, that those are the two base emotions, and from from those two emotions, all of our emotions come. Let me see. I started out with one desire to just talk about the love and fear, but as I was preparing myself for my talks, because when I do these talks, a lot of these topics I haven't researched or read anything on in maybe 20, 30 years. So now with the advent of the internet, the 2 or 3 books that I may have read 20, 30 years ago now turn into 5, 6, 7 books. And also when I prepare for my talks, I do personal research. If not on myself, I talk to people. And so this topic has brought up a lot of things. So when we talk about love and fear, we talk about that they each produce a different type of reaction in the body. When you operate from love, you produce oxytocin. And when I talk about operating from love, I'm talking about the act of loving people, being kind, being pleasant, being nurturing. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm hesitating. I'm having technical difficulties.
Yeah.
I had some
all right. I tell you,
queued up on the...
I tell you what, if you want...
Okay, I got it.
You got it? Because I was going to say, if you want 30 seconds to sort yourself out, I can just do a little ad-lib in between and then get yourself together. But, all right, folks, you're listening to Empress T with her weekly rendition of Higher Frequency. And she started off with spirituality, the very first session, and she carried it on. It's a series she's basically prepared. And as you can see, she's done a lot of research, so it has to flow in a particular fashion and manner. I guess she was distracted. She had to rush to the phone. So as a result, if you hear a little uncertain as to the approach to take or the path, that's what she's being hit with. All right. And again, she will be going through to as long as she can handle it. We'll try to open the phone line so at some point when she sees it's okay for us to do so. And the telephone number then would be 770-744-2154. You can ask her a question, you can challenge her on a point, anything, so long as we keep it respectful. 770-744-2154. Go ahead, Empress T.
Okay. When we talk about love and fear, I'm sorry, Rula. I just can't get this one item visible. I was trying to get this one item visible.
Uh-huh.
I probably should have queued it up with you ahead of time.
It's something that you wanted to get played?
Yeah, well, not so much played, but shared with you. I was trying to get it to. Wait a minute. I was trying to get it so that you can share it, so that people can see what I'm looking at as I'm talking.
Yeah, one of the problem is in my main chat room from the main computer, I have a problem. I should have converged because there are like 30 people right now tuning into you on just a chat room. I'm just talking on Ruler Brown Network. They have Mighty Radio, Vibes Urban, Caribbean Radio Show, One Harmony Radio, the Flavor Radio. There are many people there. I'm not monitoring those chat rooms, but I'm just talking on Ruler Brown Network. There are 30 people right now. So, and one of my, I should have converged both of this chat into one, but just continue and we'll work around it. If we have to do a part 2 to this, we can do that. So go ahead if you are ready.
Okay. When you talk about love and fear, they both produce different reactions. Can you still hear me well, Rula?
Yeah, you're coming through good. You're coming through great. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. They both produce different chemical reactions in the body. So that when you deal with love, you are dealing with oxytocin production in your body. When you deal with fear, you're dealing with cortisol production in your body. And I think it's only recently now that people start talking about cortisol, what is it, what is it? And they you hear those commercials for the reduction of belly fat and things like that, and they blame it on cortisol. But cortisol is responsible for more than just belly fat. It's like a negative liquid in your body. These all have to do with the limbic body systems, which have to do with the neural chemicals that your body produces in whenever you have an emotion. So that when you're dealing with fear, your body produces cortisol. And so the cortisol has negative effects. It leads to breakdown in your muscles, your bones, your joints. It causes your immune system to be depressed. It can cause pain. It can cause heart issues, things like that, and obesity. That's the main thing that people are talking about with the cortisol is obesity. But it goes a little further than that, so that it's internal, but it's internal on a neurochemical level. And so when you deal with oxytocin, it's the complete reverse. So that's why when you see people and they're always so happy and they look joyous and you're like, what is wrong with them? They look like they're on drugs. They're not really on a drug, but they are on a high, and it's an oxytocin high, and it's produced in the body. Now, women have more innately in their body than men do, but that's not to say that men can't produce it. It can't be produced in their body. So, are you with me still, Rula?
Yeah, man, we're here. Just do your thing, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that what we want to do is try to increase our oxytocin. We want to stay on the side of love in our dealings and in our actions, so that it doesn't have a negative effect. It's just like when I was talking about the power of thought. It goes deeper than just changing your outside. It changes your inside, too. And the reason why it changes the outside is because it does change the inside. Your whole body goes through a series of events when you have that one thought. Right. It triggers an emotion. The emotion triggers chemicals. The chemicals then flow through your body, so it's fueling your body. So you can either be fueling your body negatively and eventually damage it, or you can fuel your body positively and keep it going and light and happy and all systems flowing the way that they should.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when when I say we operate in love or fear, so that like emotions of fear would be insecurity, stress. Stress is one of the biggest culprits. That's a fear-based emotion, because normally when you're stressed, you're stressed about bills, health, things like that. But what you don't realize is that you throw yourself in a never-ending loop, because the more cortisol you produce, the more cortisol you kind of need, because your body gets used to that being the main fluid. So that, you're constantly stressing, and then you're sending off a whole different array of chemical reactions in your body. You're constantly stressing, but your body is learning to live off of that stress. But however, it's not really living because things are breaking down. That's not the fuel. So there you have the obesity, you have depression, you have, all the other things that go along with it. So, but when you do the reverse, you get the reverse feelings. When you can produce that oxytocin, I had mentioned that women have a little bit more than men. That is the oxytocin that allows us to get through childbirth, and endure that pain.
And both of these chemicals are naturally produced in the body, correct?
Yes, they are. Cortisol is present regardless, but again, like I always stress with the balance, we want to keep things in check, in balance. So now, with the oxytocin, what I was saying about with women, we have a little more. That's what allows us to endure the pain of childbirth. It allows our bodies to open and operate so that, the birth canal opens up and the baby can be born. And then right after, it triggers the other chemical reactions to allow us to lactate. So now we're able to nurture and feed our babies. Lactate.
Lactate?
Yes, that's... Okay. Go ahead.
No, I just wasn't sure the word that I heard it correctly. You said lactate.
Yes, lactate. It means when the woman's body is able to produce breast milk.
Okay.
And so almost immediately upon delivery of a baby, your breast starts to swell up with milk, and you're able to breastfeed. This is every woman, even the ones that say, "Oh, I can't breastfeed." That's a choice that they make, because your body makes the milk for the baby, and that's all part of the oxytocin release.
But don't you have to eat as a childbearing person during that time span? Isn't proper eating, the right food that you eat, is essential to produce the lactate in your body?
Well, yes, that all takes place in it too, because you can have not really nutritious milk. It's not really possible, because the body does adjust and makes that milk right for the baby. It curtails it just for the baby. But you can eat better, and that's all part of it too. Remember, with the mind, body, and soul, so that you want to take care of your body so that it does produce good milk, so that when you are producing the oxytocin, you're at your peak level and things like that. And most definitely.
Hey, in the chat room, hold a second there, Empress T. Folks, you have to bear with me, because like I said, there's something like 30 odd people in both of the chat rooms, and I can't monitor all of them. There are like 36 people in both of the chat room, but we are seeing some commentary in the Chat and Go chat room, and it's voluminous.
Yes, I see some of the comments. Oxytocin, yes, you're absolutely right, Keith Anthony. It has to do with it does keep the body calm. I can't read everything. And bonding. It is definitely the bonding hormone.
Yeah. And Empress T, again, just go at your own pace. If one and two thing you see in the chat room you want to address, just go ahead and insert it in the dialogue. But don't let that throw off your flow. So just go ahead.
Okay. It's called the bonding hormone. So that women have more and men have it too. But now what gets tricky with it is when men and women do come together.
Now we talk the talk. Talk to us.
Because oxytocin is called the bonding hormone, and the reason why it's called that, because it, like I said, it allows moms to bond with their babies. It allows us to go through the childbirth process and things like that. And it also is the agent that allows couples to bond together. But what happens nowadays in our society, because everything now is all screwed up, is that people are just jumping to the bonding fluid, to the not the bonding fluid, to the act of how should I say, the physical act of sex, which is not really intimacy and not really bonding. You have oxytocin is responsible for bonding. And so when you do come together in an intimate union, the oxytocin is released, but we get confused because we don't know all the, chemical breakdowns. We get confused and we think that coming together is what gave you that rush. And so what happens is when men and women come together and the men get that rush, they also get a rush of dopamine, because men and women, we bond and we climax differently. So that when you're in that union, like I said, and the oxytocin is spiking, and then, the men get that spike of dopamine too, they associate it with, it was the act of ejaculating that, that caused that oxytocin, and they try to get it. It's like a high. It's a rush. But that's not exactly accurate.
So generally in lovemaking and bonding, getting together, knowing one another, these chemicals are playing part within one's body that's really producing the end results of an event, whether it's, hard sex.
Exactly. And if you don't understand it, you can cause not only physical damage, but lifelong social damage. And that's really what's been happening, because I remember when we were younger, we weren't privy to sex. People said, it's not for you. You can't talk about it. You couldn't even know about it. It wasn't for young ears. You weren't allowed to have sex until you got married. There were certain restrictions and certain guidelines that were placed, but none of it was ever explained. And these guidelines and restrictions were set up and put in place because love making, which is what it is very sacred and very intimate. And if you don't know what you're doing, like I said, you're going to cause your own body harm, and you entering into these intimate relationships with people because you're not even understanding what is physically going on or what is chemically going on. You're just bumbling through. And that's why I think when we were younger, they said, those things were for grown folks. But even though they were for grown folks, some grown folks weren't even educated in how to properly make love. And so, again, with oxytocin, that's the love, the bonding hormone. So that we went from a culture of love-making people and bonded people, group people, to now it's every man for himself. Everybody's trying to, they're just trying to bust their own little nut, as they say, if I can use that term. And it's caused a breakdown in relationships, a breakdown in family, because we're not understanding what is really going on.
All right. I don't want to diverge much from what you're saying, but I'm hoping I can keep it in check with what you're saying. No, when people have sex, man and woman have sex, or two people have sex, because nowadays different people have sex, man and man, woman and woman, whatever. When it gets to rough sex, what happens there? Is it too much of the chemicals that's overpowering their bodies? Well,
here's the thing. The first thing is that there's sex.
And there's ego
and
sex.
And then there's making love.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. Go ahead.
So when you're having sex, it is very primitive. You're dealing with a whole different base, like real base chemical information to the brain. It has nothing to do with intimacy. It has very little to do with bonding. It's very primal. And so I think, I'm not sure, I didn't really look into it. I don't know much about it, but I know more about love, the positive side of it, that I feel that things like rough sex and the bondage thing. Those are things that people get into. Like, they don't just start out, like, you don't just start out having rough sex.
That is true. That is true.
I think something might have happened along the way, and it gave them a different spike. And so each time they go in, they try to recreate it, try to get that high. It's like a drug. They try to, even like with a gambler, when they win, and it sets off all the chemical reaction in their brain. It's it's like an ultimate high. That feeling, they try to recreate that feeling, and so each time they have to get more cruel and more brutal, just because they have to, keep the level going. They're trying to beat their last level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Did I answer the question, though?
You did. And the question is whether or not some of the people in the chat room, it was answered for them. Because one person in the chat room is asking me, Rula, what do I call rough sex? I don't call rough sex. Go ahead.
Rough sex is just sex. Now, like I said, there's a difference. There's love making, right, and then there's sex.
Right.
So that when you're making love, there's nothing cruel, there's nothing mean, there's nothing hard about it. It's definitely intimate and very sensual.
Yeah, a lot of foreplay, kissing,
exactly,
stroking,
and in fact,
licking.
In fact, the reason why the little straight sex is no good is because of the time factor involved. It's very quick. And usually the man ejaculates rather quickly, and that ejaculation strips them of their zinc. You might not feel the effects right away, but it's very damaging. It robs you of your zinc, and it sets you off on this, I guess you could call it like a sexual roller coaster, because once you ejaculate, then you get that dopamine rush. But then you get that dopamine drop right away. And so there's where you get the man pop out and pull over. Am I saying it wrong? Pull out and roll over? Pull out and roll over. And the woman is like, hey, wait a minute. I'm still in this.
Wait for me. Let me ask you this, though. But is there a point when the man is going through that travel, whatever you want to term? Is there a point where the woman can actually talk him down to say, look, don't come so early. Look, man, I'm part of this journey too. What's going on?
Well, exactly that, and that's the difference between intimate love making and having sex.
It's mutual.
If you're engaged in love making, it's more intimate than that. And really, they've done tests and has shown and proved that if you're engaged for less than a half an hour, you had sex, you did not make love. And it's going to leave both people unsatisfied. Just because you ejaculate doesn't mean that you've satisfied yourself. That's not what it's all about. It's a little deeper than that. It's a bioenergy. It's energy. And so, like, the man feels that urge to release that energy. For him, he's thinking it's physical because he knows that physical release is quick to get. But for a woman, it's a little different process.
Right.
And so we need the foreplay, but not just women need the foreplay, the men need the foreplay as well. Because if they go up gradually, when they come down, it's going to be gradual as well. It's in that coming down sharply that causes men to go look for another woman.
So you touch that's a nice segue, because I was going to ask you the question then about how does that affect relationships? Not having the love making, and at some point one of the partner gonna feel, well, hey, this seems like I'm not really being satisfied. It's all about that other person. Then they start to want to go and look elsewhere for that relationship.
Yes, because they're looking for physical gratification, and love making is supposed to be just that. You're supposed to be making love. It's supposed to be intimate. It's supposed to be involved. It's supposed to involve more than actual penetration. In fact, if it's done right, you don't even need penetration. How many times, and this is for people who are in a relationship, how many times have you looked at your partner and you get this wave of feeling? You know what I'm talking about. You get that rush. And to a guy, they're like, oh, yeah, it's on. But to a woman, it comes like a wave of warmth. It's heat. It's love. It's like sun that just rushes through your body. And they didn't even touch you. They're across the room.
But there again, Sister T, is that the man probably don't understand some of that.
Exactly, and that is my point. When they used to tell us when we were young, oh, don't have sex, it's not, you don't know what you're doing, they were speaking the truth. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing because you have to take the time, you have to build the intimacy if you're making love. And see, there's where society and everything gets in the way. Because, okay, wait, I got to backtrack a little bit. I had said about that it's an energy for women. When a woman is aroused, it's not just internal. They have shown and did studies where she actually gives off an aura. They can see sparks of energy fly off of her body.
Wow.
Okay? And not just for women, for men. But the times that it happens and the way that it happens are different. So what happens is when you have that quick sex, the woman, it depending on how far into the process, how far into the 30 minutes, she might be left undone because the energy was just welling up.
So,
and then the man pulls out and he's out of there. But he's not satisfied either. He might be physically satisfied, but his energy is still undone, and that's what leads him to go to someone else. So that the trick is you want to engage in foreplay. The actual act of intercourse where you're penetrating shouldn't be the beginning, neither should it be the end, but rather the middle, somewhere along the middle. And the end of lovemaking should end almost the way that it began, where you're skin to skin, intimate closeness is the proximity. It has nothing to do with penetrating. It has nothing to do with being rough. It has nothing to do with anything other than the touch, the intimacy, the sharing of that energy, because it's real. They've shown it. And the woman's energy doesn't start to ebb until after.
Well, let me say this, Sister T. It's listeners, it's 11 o'clock here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're listening to Empress T with her weekly rendition of Higher Frequency. This week she's talking about love and fear. She's talking about the love part. That fear part's going to come later on. And let me tell you, we have a total, let me see, the chat rooms, both chat rooms, there are about 37 persons that are tuning into, and some of them are very funny with some of the comments they're making in the chat room. But Keith Anthony, or the England crowd, and says he needs 30 minutes just to get started, just for his little thing to get started. Let me ask you this though: the anticipation, say you're building a relationship with somebody and you haven't had a chance to get to that first stage, like you're in bed making love. So suppose you're courting each other for a while, and then for say 6 months, and at that moment, God, for 6 months you say, "But I mean, really, I love a piece of that thing." Then, at that time when it happens, and it happens within 5 minutes, the man comes within 5 minutes, or the woman for that matter.
And then you know what happens? Then they stop dating each other. Yeah. And people can't understand why. What happened? Right. He was there for 6 months. It's the same process. He might have been there for 6 months, but your sex took 5 minutes because you had sex instead of making love.
But in that regard, though, if somebody was to be courting somebody, reaching out to somebody for 6 months, and then, like you said, they have that event, and it happens within 5 minutes, you really think the relationship would break up then? Because why wait around 6 months?
Because for the man, okay, I got to take it back to almost cave. Well, I won't say caveman because then I got 3 people saying, which caveman? We didn't come from caves.
Prehistoric dating time.
Back to, yes, primitive. Men are instinctively hunters.
Right.
And women are the nurturers in the gap. So that for a man, that 6 months is a hunt. I'm keeping it real.
Yeah.
I'm keeping it real. Unless his intention is to actually marry the person, it's just a hunt. And I have seen men stick around for 6 months, a year, 2 years, if they thought they were going to get the goods. Now, a smart woman will do her research and learn the art of making love. Because that is what will be the difference of whether or not the relationship continues or not. So that in the 6 months, when you feel that you're ready to be intimate, you don't actually be intimate. Because remember, it takes time to build to that. But there are levels of intimacy. So that you might not want to jump right to it because it is going to take 5 minutes. Because, you know, he's been waiting, what, 6 months? He's on a different mission. His agenda is to get the goods.
Yeah.
The girl's agenda is to get the man.
Right.
Now, both people can be satisfied, but they have to be smart.
Yeah.
And there's the reason why you can't really go around having a bunch of little frivolous intimate relationships, because they are intimate. You might not want them to be intimate. The man doesn't want it to be intimate. But he's not understanding that for the woman it is going to be intimate, because the minute that oxytocin is released, it becomes a bond. And so men who sleep around, they're going around forming all these bonds with these women, and they're not understanding. They're saying, oh, she's crazy, she's sick, she's this, she's that. Yes, she is. You have set off these chemical reactions in her. Then you left her undone. Because as a man, you also didn't study the art of lovemaking. Because it's an art. It's not just something that we do. And because we don't know, we're going around creating all these little families, creating all these little relationships, and nothing is really solidifying, nothing is really bonding. So that if you can learn how to make love properly, you can have these relationships last. You don't have to worry about, oh, my husband's over here with this one or that one. What is he doing? Because you know that the intimacy, which is what it's supposed to be all about, is at home with you.
Right.
So if you do find yourself in that position, you know, slow it down. You can slow it down. You can slow it down, females. You can slow it down, males. When you're into it, you know, take conscious. That's what I'm saying. Don't be on autopilot with everything that we do. Raw sex is autopilot sex. That has nothing to do with anything. When a man says it didn't mean anything, you can believe him. You can believe him. However, if he goes back again, then you don't believe him, because now a bond is being formed.
All right. 1 second there, and bear with me, folks. The chat rooms are just buzzing right here on Ruler Brown Network. We have over 40 persons tuning in. I guess with the topic and the way I had actually set it up during the week, we can understand the massive turnout in the chat rooms. But and one of the mistakes I made, I should have converged the chat and go chat room with the Ustream, because we're seeing a number of persons in the Ustream chat room and a number of persons also in the chat and go. But we'll take it as we go. And I can't even access this stuff on the chat and go due to the problem I'm having. So from time to time, if I pick up anything, I'll pass it on to you. The number to calling if you'd like to present a question or confront, and no, not confront, but a dialogue, actually, let me put it that way, with Empress T. The number to call is 770-744-2154, because we know a lot of you men out there, especially, they say, I wonder what you talk about, this oxytocin.
What I wanted to talk about was they actually have a name for it. When I learned about it, I didn't know that there was an actual name for it. I was one of those women that I did my research. I love to read. That is the thing that I love to do. If there were more hours in the day, I think I would be reading. If I could just, if I didn't have to eat and I didn't have to work, I think I would just read and listen to music. Those are my two favorite things.
Right.
But when I was younger
not making love?
Well, listen.
Okay, go ahead.
The making love, yeah. But when I was younger, and coming into my womanhood, I wanted to know what is this lovemaking all about, and I started doing research, and I learned certain methods and certain things to do, but not knowing that they had an actual name. Now they have an actual name for the practices and things like that, and so that these are tried and true methods. And so when I practiced them, like I said, it wasn't because it was the fad. It was because that's what I learned. I didn't have any other guidelines. I didn't have any other teachings. I didn't have anything else to go with. Mm-hmm. And because I learned that, my intimate relationships and my family relationships are also a reflection of that. If you can understand the intimacy that's involved, then you don't just go willy-nilly. If you can understand the spirituality that's involved, you cannot be involved in a bunch of frivolous relationships.
Mm-hmm. Very good point.
So,
very good point.
Now the practice, they call it tantric lovemaking, or
the word is tantric, T-A-N-T-R-I-C.
Yeah, T-A-N-T-R-I-C.
Okay.
Or Careeza, C-A-R-E-E-Z-A. And basically, what it is it's slowed down lovemaking, if you even penetrate at all. It has more to do with touching, caressing. It's the act of being intimate more than anything. So that when you're in the throes of passion, you slow it down. The goal is not to have the man ejaculate so fast, because then that interrupts the whole process. And so you just slow everything down so that that's the last thing that happens. You want to concentrate on the intimacy, the energy that's being flowed. When you're making love, you can feel the energy that goes between the two bodies. So you want to hold on to that and keep the energy flowing more than anything. It's more spiritual than physical when it's real love making. Of course, the physical has to be involved because our spirits are in our body.
Right. All right. The next question I have in my head, I'm not sure I can present it because it may sound a bit off. So I don't really want to present it. Okay. It's 10 minutes after 11 o'clock, folks. You're listening to Empress T, and she has the time of her own. She can take it as long as she wants. If you want to call in, the number is 770-744-2154. Whatever is on your mind, look, we'll be glad to hear it. It'll be interesting to hear an exchange. So if anybody wants to call in and chime in, please give us a call, 770-744-2154. No.
I see one question there, Ruel.
Okay.
Yes, a man can make love to a woman's mind. And again, in the society that we live in, it's really dangerous because you have internet. And because we are visual beings, and not just visual, some people are auditory, so like we live and operate with our senses. So it's definitely possible to have intimate occurrences without actually being close to someone.
Again, because I can't see the chat room because it's also so overloaded and there's a lot of information flowing. I see, who is this now? Somebody asked about, what about phone sex? They want to make phone sex. How does that work?
Well, here's the thing. Like it says, phone sex, that's just phone sex. That's not going to give you what you need.
That's not love making.
If you're looking for phone sex, trust me, you're looking for something more. What are you saying, women without best choices watching TV? You are funny. If you're looking for phone sex, I guarantee you're actually looking for something more. And while the phone sex will give you an instant gratification, it's not going to give you the same gratification as having an intimate, phone conversation.
So what I'm hearing is a degree in terms of what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, it definitely is a degree, and that's why we have to be careful with the relationships that we have. Like, you can in a work office, I always relate it to the work office, right? You can see like little relationships there. There's always that husband and wife team, even though they're not married to each other, but they have a chemistry. People call it a chemistry. That's that energy. That's that intimacy. That's that energy.
But can that energy develop to a point where, say you're in the office and you're working closely with someone, and somehow hints are being dropped, things are being said. Could that just be a innocent?
No, there's nothing innocent. There's nothing innocent. And what I mean by that is that you don't always have to be physical with someone to enter into an intimate relationship. And so you have to be very, very careful. The moment that people start talking, it's a done deal. They already see the energy too.
So basically that's part of the way how people's relationship, marriages and so forth, tends to gradually break down.
They can if people are not aware of what intimacy is and what to do. Like me, I consider myself a very sensual person. I'm not going around touching people. I'm not going around talking to people. I'm not spending time with anybody because I already know that I give off that energy. And a lot of times it's not even intentional. It's just something that happens because I'm always in that aura. I operate from love, and so I give off loving vibes. And so, but you have to be responsible. And responsibility comes with awareness.
That is true. Very true. No,
and like I said, with lovemaking couples, if you're having problems in your relationship, I guarantee you're having problems in your bedroom. That's the fail. And then women bond differently and men bond differently, so that, like I said, we're not looking for that quick release, that satisfaction just like that intimate. We're looking for something more intimate, something more lasting, something more enduring. We're looking for that cuddling. We're looking for that holding, the exchange, like I said, of the energy. So that if you're having issues, spend intimate time, not physical, sexual time, but spend intimate time. Take baths together, things that require skin to skin contact.
Touching.
Yes, take baths together. Massage each other. You have to be careful with massages because energy is passed through the touch. So that, some people go and get massages. It's great, it's therapeutic, but you got to be careful too because, it can go the other way. Some people are really aroused by massages. There's where you see all those Chinese, I shouldn't say that, the Asian massage parlors being shut down because it turns into something else. It's almost inevitable. It has to turn into something else. It's touch. Those people are trained to touch certain spots of the body.
They know where to touch to make Charlie look up in the sky.
Yep, exactly. So that, like I said, it comes with responsibility too. It's just a lot of interesting things. It's just something to think about. Like I said, if your relationship is not going the way you want, or it's not as intimate as it used to be. Think of how much time you're actually spending together now. We always say, we don't have time. You have to make time. You have to make time. We won't make time. A man can't spend a half an hour in bed with his wife, but I bet you he'll spend 3 or 4 or 5 hours on a Sunday afternoon watching football. Right?
Yeah, you're right, and that's true. You're absolutely right. You're right in terms of the relationship, time spent, and all those things. It definitely can strengthen the relationship. Let me ask you this though: how do you explain this one from the chemistry standpoint? A woman and a woman. What kind of derivation is arrived based on the chemicals that they're both are giving off, and then they have these deep relationships. How does that work?
Well, now that's funny that that they asked that question, because I was talking with a friend of mine about this topic, and that was one of the things that came up. What about homosexuality? Not just women and women, what about men and men? And I didn't really research a lot on it, but from what I know about how the chemicals and things work, I think that women are more inclined to be in those types of relationships because of the energy levels, because we have higher oxytocin naturally, and because our auras, when it comes to the love, is so much higher. It's got to be like this kind of weird rush. It's got to be a weird chemical rush. But is it practical? No. Because at the end of the day, we still have to procreate. So that while it's loving and intimate, it's not, like I said, it's not really practical. Because imagine if every woman now turned to a woman and every man turned to a man, we wouldn't be able to procreate, because no longer will we feel the attraction. Everything starts to change. And then there's no more people being procreated, because we no longer need each other, but we do need each other. We are designed physically for each other. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, it certainly answers it.
But it has to be, I would say, a strange rush. Like, when I say strange, not meaning in a bad way, strange because it's foreign to me. I don't know it. I'm not familiar with it.
Right.
But based off of what I know about the oxytocin and the dopamine and the prolactin and all the little chemical things that goes on, yeah, it's got to be really intense. It's probably very intense.
All right. You spend most of the time, I know the topic's supposed to be love and fear. You spend most of the time on love. Talk a little about the fear aspect, or the other part of the topic. Fear. The fear, like I said, are the things that that are negative. Negative thoughts are mostly fear. Feeling insecure. Let me see. So basically, from what you're saying then, based on relationship and what you've talked about, the opposite can derive if you don't handle things correctly in terms of communicating, touching, that type of thing. The fear could develop with one of the party that, look, man, this person going to be probably moving on and finding someone else. Is that part of it? Yes, but not just fear in relationships. I'm talking about fear in life. Yeah, well, yeah. We are naturally fearful people. We are trained, in fact, to be fearful from the time that we're little. We're trained to be fearful of everything, right? Oh, don't play with that, you'll get hurt. Oh, don't touch that, you'll get. Oh, don't do this, right? We're trained on fear. We're definitely trained on fear. You have churches. I don't want to say churches because I don't want to sound like you're bashing. Yes, exactly. But they operate on fear to me. And the reason why I say that is because I can remember being 3 years old, going to church and hearing about hell and damnation and fire and feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to die in the next 2 minutes. And as a child, you live with that. Oh my God, am I sinning? Am I doing this? Oh no, I'm sinning. I'm in fear now. Oh, God is going to get me. Oh, and they drill that on you. Fear is very powerful, and it works. That's why they use it. They use fear in schools. They use fear in jails. They control people with fear. What the police are doing now is fear. They're instilling fear that is caused by fear. They are fearful of us, and that fear in turn is making them hostile and on the defense, and it's like a never-ending loop of fear. And the politicians do that also. I mean, the terrorists, everybody. It's part of the being, part of living, fear. No, it's part of our society. Right, but we can reject it. You do not have to accept a fearful existence. I mean,
even myself, I can remember as a young mother being fearful of the bills. Oh my God, I gotta pay my bills on time. I gotta pay them in full. And I had a neighbor upstairs, an older lady, and bless her heart, because she taught me so much, Mrs. Haynes. And she said to me, well, what do you think is going to happen to you if you don't pay your phone bill?
That's true.
And I had to think for a moment. What is really going to happen? And nothing really is going to happen to me, not to my soul. They might turn the phone off, but what is really going to happen? Mm-hmm. And so I started thinking like that. And she was like, you need to put that in check. That's not even real. That, stop worrying about those types of things. And so there's what I mean by living a fearful existence personally.
And managing.
And we can change that. You know what I'm saying? Not just in your relationship, living fearful. Oh, I'm going to lose my job if I don't get there on time. And now you're rushing. And then it's the thoughts are negative, and then it sets off the cortisol, and it's not good. It's just not good. But we are a culture that is run and governed, like you said, on fear. And so once we can understand that, then you can start to separate how you're going to respond opposed to react. Because what happens with fear is that you react because your adrenaline gets pumping up and you're like, oh my God, I got to do something, right? And you're not allowed to respond. But when you start to train your mind to differentiate between the two, then you're allowed to respond. And so now your mind says, okay, now wait a minute, hold on.
Being calm is the key.
Yeah.
Calm.
What is really going on here? You know what I'm saying? What is the worst thing that can happen? And if it's not going to terminate my life, if it's not going to hurt my kids directly, I have no business being afraid of it, and I'm not.
Right.
And so what I'm going to do is put a spin on it so that I'm not like, oh God, if I don't pay my phone bill, but rather I need to pay my phone bill because I enjoy talking to my loved ones. So I got to get this phone bill paid, and the phone bill gets paid anyway. We always pay our phone bill. We got to pay it. So it's not a big deal. You don't have to stress over those things is what I'm saying. You don't have to stress about getting to your job. You're going to get there. You've been getting there. You got to get there.
All right, folks, you're listening to Empress T. We're going to wind it down. It's 24 minutes after. We're going to give her 6 more minutes to basically summarize today and what you can look forward to next week. And, we certainly have a minute if you want to still call in and present a dialogue with her. Empress T, this is the 5th deposit of what you are calling a higher energy. Based on some of the things you presented today, where or what would you, because you always say that, go out and research it, look up the stuff. Generally, what would you say to listeners if they want to find out more? Because you're right. Sometimes we're just not educated enough about a subject matter or a particular situation or a particular event or occurrence or emotion or relationship, and you end up acting out of fear rather than being relaxed, research and stuff, then make the decision that makes sense. Where would you say persons could go ahead and find out more information?
More information about what our fear and love-based emotions are. You can just go on the internet and put in love and fear. Mm-hmm. You can put in a search for what are our basic emotions. Or you can even say, what is fear? What is love? And you would be surprised, I think, at how much comes up, because these are topics that, believe it or not, resonate with a lot of people. People are trying to get right. They don't want to live unhealthy lives. There's a lot of sicknesses going on now because we have broken down the families. Like I said, there's no more spirituality. Once we lost our spiritual connection, everything else went with it. And it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We needed the baby. You know what I'm saying? All the hogwash around it, this Bible, this one said, that said, do it this day, that day. All of that stuff is minor. It doesn't even matter. What really matters was the meat of it, the spirituality. Once we lose that, we lose everything. Families break down, relationships break down, and then everything breaks down. Cultures break down. It's just like a domino effect.
You're right. You're right. You are right. The spirituality is one of the key things, and set aside the ego, which is one of the things you mentioned last week.
Yeah, because it's all part of it. But like I said, when you have that spirituality, when you're grounded, you can only operate from love. Nothing can fear you. Nothing can make you fearful or afraid. Some people say, "Oh, with God is my light. I am a champion. You know, no harm can come to me." You know, all the different scriptures that they have, but that comes from that. That's the same belief. That when you're spiritually connected, you got it going on. There's nothing for you to be fearful of. So when you're firmly rooted, you operate from love. Everything that you do is from love. You speak from your heart. You speak from love. You speak from a point of love. You're not trying to scare people into things. I never ruled my kids with fear. I ruled them, you know, with love and fun. Some people say, "Oh, you and your kids have a great relationship," but that's because it was more love-based than fear-based.
Very important.
So that you see, it's, you know, the love and fear thing, it transcends. It's in everything that we do. Those are the two emotions. It's either going to be out of fear and out of love. Emotions of fear or gratification, that's instant gratification. That's like the instant sex. When you think about it, quick sex, that's fear. Those are fearful emotions. That's an insecurity, you know, anger, selfishness, deception, cruelty, control, insensitive, arrogance, jealousy. Those are all fearful emotions.
Yes, indeed.
And the flip side is unselfishness, tolerance, compassion, forgiveness, generosity, honesty, confidence, kindness, freedom, merciful, peaceful, humility, and trust. Love. Those are all emotions of love. Yeah. So that when you're talking with people, like I said, be mindful of your thoughts, be mindful of your emotions too.
All right, folks, it's 28 minutes after. Next week, being Friday, the day after Christmas, will you be here? Next Thursday, I will not have a show. I'm going to Jose feed the homeless on Thursday, which is Christmas Day. The Friday, the day after, which is Boxing Day for the people in England, I will definitely do the show. So the question is, will you be available? And if so, do you have any idea what you're going to be covering next week?
I could be available, and we can talk about Feng Shui, Rulam.
Yeah, Feng Shui.
Which was something that you had asked about.
Yes.
We went back to the body with talking about a little bit with the intimate lovemaking. But Feng Shui is a way where we can where we can physically work with and change our environment to bring about changes within our body. Chemical changes, like the use of color, the use of smells, things like that, and placement in the house. Yeah. And so we can talk about some of that.
All right, great. So, folks, next week, the word is spelled, Keith Anthony is put in the chat room. I've always had problems spelling it. Feng Shui, it's Fengshui. And yes. And it's just give us the derivation of the origination of Feng Shui.
Feng Shui comes from the ancient Chinese culture. They believe that colors and placement carry energy. All right. So colors and elements all have vibrations. They all have energy. So it's not just, it's your environment. So it's all of the elements in the environment, all that include color, light, sound, everything. And they all have a connection to your body. So with Feng Shui, you are connecting the outside environment with your body and getting in sync with it, basically. Nice. So we can talk about that and hoarding. That is the opposite, I would say, of Feng Shui. And causes also a lot of physical damage to people and emotional damage. So that, your environment, even though it's on the outside of your body, can also affect you greatly.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great topic next week. And when you think about it, right after Christmas, because a lot of hoarding is taking place at home after Christmas, having a whole bunch of junk thrown around.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, I tell you, it's 11:31, and there's always 1 hour of gripping information. I'm just sorry I couldn't combine the chat rooms and get things to flow, but I tell you, man, this was absolutely amazing, and we want to say, for the holiday, you and the family have a great one, and we certainly really appreciate the input today. Any final 20 seconds of wrap up? Any shout out you want to give to anyone? Go ahead.
Just again, I just want to say thank you, Ruda, for the opportunity to share these thoughts and to present interesting points to people. And everyone, just please, let's be more loving. That's my goal. I love being in love, and I love when I feel love. I love feeling beautiful, and when I'm loving and sharing, that's what I feel, beautiful. I feel like a sun. I won't say I feel like the sun because I don't want to overshadow the sun, but it's just beautiful to be alive, and I want us all to enjoy it and radiate, the love that is within us.
I will feel the love. And again, thank you so much. Have a great holiday. All right, folks, That's the one and only Empress T.
Blessings to each and every one of you. This is Empress T.